Hey guys, this is EJ Holland with the Wolverine.com back for another episode of the Wolverine Recruiting Podcast. As always, if you haven't subscribed to the Wolverine.com, subscribe for $1 for 1 year. Gets you access to insider recruiting information. But today we're going to give you some stuff for free. We're going to break down the commitment of four-star interior offensive lineman Amir Herring out of West Bloomfield High School in Michigan. Herring, a local kid that's always been a Michigan lean. His recruitment was a little interesting. Michigan again had that kind of early lead with him. They extended an early offer, and then he wasn't really trying to commit early. Herring wanted to enjoy the process a little bit, make some other visits during that time, which came in the winter slash spring. Sharon Moore decided to look at some other interior offensive line targets. Things kind of cooled off between both parties. In the early part of the summer, it was actually Nebraska that started to gain some real momentum with Herring, but Michigan decided to make a push, brought him in for an official visit, and he ended up giving a silent commit there, and then gave a public commitment on July 7th, which was yesterday at the ceremony that Clayton Safey and I were at. So that's kind of just a rundown of how his recruitment worked out, but I think it worked for both parties at the end of the day. Herring's a Michigan type of kid that's always wanted to play at Michigan. And I think Michigan needed Herring. I think the debate, which I'm sure we'll get to here in a little bit, about whether he should have been a take or not to begin with, shouldn't have even happened. I mean, I think he's a four-star prospect for a reason. I've seen him live on multiple occasions, including multiple games. I love the way he run blocks. I mean, he's a road grader type. He plays with excellent technique, has really good feet. He's a guy that plays with a mean streak. He's aggressive. He's actually pretty good in pass pro for an interior guy. He spends a lot of time playing tackle for West Bloomfield. I know there are some concerns about his height. He's right at about 6'2.5". His arm length isn't ideal either. Doesn't concern me too much with him being more of an interior guy that'll likely end up playing center. So again, he plays a lot of tackle for West Bloomfield, but he's been working on snapping the football throughout the offseason. He knows center is a real possibility. His recruitment and his game reminds me a little bit of Raheem Anderson. So it's no surprise Michigan used Raheem as a player host. If you guys remember, Raheem a couple cycles back was a guy that really loved Michigan early on. Things kind of cooled off between both. There was some debate whether he was going to be a take or not. He ended up committing to Michigan, and he was one of the leaders of that class. And, it's still kind of early in Raheem's career, but I think Raheem's going to have a great career, and I think Amir will have a great career at Michigan too. And you need guys like Raheem, and you need guys like Amir. Not only are they very good football players, I think they're also great leaders, great ambassadors for the program, especially being in-state guys. They're kind of the nucleus of your locker room. So I'm a big fan of Amir. He's a great kid off the field, one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet. Aspires to be a medical doctor one day as well. So extremely smart in the classroom. This is a kid that really bought into the transformational pitch from Jim Harbaugh. So again, a great win. Michigan's first offensive line commitment, which is huge. Michigan only took 2 high school offensive linemen last year, so they needed to get some guys in the trenches this year. And Herring is a good start after a summer filled with some misses along the offensive line. But we'll go ahead and throw it to our producer, Trevor Ritchie, who's going to bring up some questions from our great message board, the Fort, again, over at thewolverine.com. If you're not part of our community, please subscribe now, $1 for 1 year, and you can interact with all our great fans over on the Fort message board. But we'll go ahead and take a comment / question from some of the users, and we'll go over to MNS_Mike, who says, Herring is a great addition. Happy Michigan had him as a take. He deserves it. And so, yeah, like I said, kind of reiterating my point, a large part of the debate happened in the spring when a lot of guys moved ahead on the board for Herring since he opted not to commit super early in the process. But I don't think it should have really been a debate. I think Herring should have been or should have kept his spot at the top of the board. Yes, he can talk about the height and the arm length, but again, as an interior offensive lineman, he's a guy that is terrific at run blocking. I mean, he's again extremely physical. He's always burying people. And when you go out and you evaluate high school offensive linemen, it's one of the hardest position groups to evaluate in college football. But the thing about Herring is his floor is so high. You know what you're getting, and what you're getting is very good. Like there might not be a huge ceiling for Amir Herring, but you know you're taking a safe take. But the other point I was going to make is when you go out and you look at high school offensive linemen, something that I always keep an eye on is how a lot of times in the trenches when you're playing inferior high school competition, um, there's a lack of guys that are that type of size, right? So it's always important to see offensive linemen dominate the guys in front of them that are usually smaller guys. And Amir's that type of player. I mean, he buries people. He does everything that you ask of him. He has great hand placement. He uses his technique well, leverage, strength, all of it. It comes together really, really well on the field. And you see him serve up a lot of pancakes. If you are a local guy and you have a chance to go watch West Bloomfield, which does play quality competition, and obviously, won a state title a couple of years ago. You will see Amir Herring serving up not just, one or two pancakes. I mean, this is a guy that's serving up multiple pancakes every game because he is such a dominant force at the high school level. And again, get the ceiling's not super high, but the floor is definitely high. We'll go ahead and go over to our next question, which comes from Wispken, or a comment, I guess. He says, great read. Appreciate that. Also, I hope the offensive line recruiting picks up as it looks like we need at least 5 in this class. So, yeah, I mentioned earlier, this is Michigan's first offensive line commit, with Herring being a true interior offensive lineman. I think Michigan has the lead for Paul Mubenga out of Buford, Georgia, another interior offensive lineman that's looking to make a decision here fairly soon. That would give Michigan 2 great interior offensive line takes. You have Herring, who's the more high floor guy, safe take, and then you have Mubenga, who is more highly touted in terms of offers, has a lot of athleticism, a ton of potential, but maybe a bit of a lower floor. So I think that's a really good combination in the interior, but you need tackles. Again, last year, Michigan only took 2 high school offensive linemen. They also added Andrew Gentry, who was on his mission out in Utah, but only 2 high school offensive linemen. So it was expected to be a bigger group. The offensive line struggles on the recruiting trail this cycle have been a little perplexing. Sharon Moore's had more duties now as co-offensive coordinator. Also, a lot going on personally with him having a newborn baby. But at the end of the day, Michigan runs the football so well. The offensive line was tremendous last year, winning the Joe Moore Award. You'd think that offensive linemen would be jumping on board immediately, and that hasn't been the case. So I think you're going to see Michigan kind of reset the board. I think you're going to have new targets pop up. I mean, Michigan did whiff on its top tackle prospects, Caden Green, Charles Jagusaw, Caden Proctor, and it looks like Logan Howland are all going to be off the board. So Michigan has to find some tackles. It'll be interesting to see how offensive line recruiting works out. I think that's one of the bigger storylines moving forward the rest of the cycle. We'll go ahead and go back to Trevor Ritchie, who's pulling up our next comment, and that comes from Mish56, and he says, great get for Michigan football, and I love it that he wants to be a doctor when his playing days are over, so he has future dreams too. Our academic reputation certainly didn't hurt the efforts of the coaches. Go Blue always. Yeah, Amir Herring, again, if I know a lot of fans don't get a chance to meet, the high school players, but if you did, I mean, Herring is an extremely impressive young man. His parents did a great job of raising him. He's extremely respectful. He has the nickname Humble Beast, and that's what he is. He's extremely humble. Off the field, on the field, he turns into a monster. Like I said, he loves serving up pancakes. He really, really wanted to be at Michigan, not only for the football aspect, but because it's such a great academic institution. So like I said, Herring was high on Nebraska. During the process, he flirted a lot with Penn State. Missouri was in there. But at the end of the day, Michigan is such a great academic school that's where Herring really wanted to be from an off the field standpoint. And so he has a lot of ambitions away from the field as well as on the field. And I think Michigan kind of offered him the best of both worlds. And when Jim Harbaugh says, transformational, he's talking about guys like Herring. He's buying into, getting the actual Michigan experience, being part of what it means to be a Michigan Wolverine and wear the wing helmet on the field and get that degree from the University of Michigan. So I think Herring embodies everything you want in a Michigan kid. And I know it's more of an in-state guy that was a lean for a long time, so it might not come with the fanfare of some high-profile recruits. But I think Michigan fans should be very happy to have Amir Herring suit up for Michigan, both as a player and as an ambassador for the university. But that's our time, guys. We appreciate you all for watching and joining. If you are not a subscriber to the Wolverine.com, again, $1 1 year. That is extremely cheap. I was actually in the grocery store parking lot today, and some guy tried to sell me a candy and he was charging $3. So $1. And I didn't even get the candy after I gave him $3. So $1 for 1 year. You can't really beat that over at the Wolverine.com. Appreciate you guys for joining.